Hello, and welcome to our channel. Wandering and wondering? Whether you're a history buff or just curious about anything and everything around you, you're in the right place. Today, we're counting down the greatest American presidents of all time, so let's jump right in. The President of the United States isn't just the leader of a country. He's a symbol of democracy, power, and resilience. Holding the highest office in the land, the President shapes policy, commands the world's most powerful military, and represents the nation on the global stage. For over 2 centuries, Americans and people worldwide have been fascinated by the individuals who've stepped into this demanding role, forever shaping history. Number 10. John F. Kennedy was the 35th President of the United States. He served only one partial term as president, from January 20th, 1961, until his assassination on November 22nd, 1963. Kennedy grew up in a wealthy and politically connected family, facing frequent illnesses but enjoying a privileged upbringing. In his youth, he attended prestigious schools like Choate Rosemary Hall, Harvard University, and London School of Economics, and developed a reputation for charm, charisma, and intellectual curiosity, despite ongoing health issues. He served in the U.S. Navy during World War II as a lieutenant in the Pacific Theater, where he commanded a patrol torpedo boat, PT-109. In 1943, after his boat was struck by a Japanese destroyer, Kennedy heroically led his surviving crew to safety, an act that earned him the Navy and Marine Corps Medal for Bravery. He married Jacqueline Bouvier on September 12, 1953. She was a well-educated and sophisticated woman who became an influential First Lady, known for her style, grace, and dedication to historic preservation. Before becoming president, Kennedy served as a U.S. congressman and then as a U.S. senator from Massachusetts. He was president from January 20th, 1961. He is known for his leadership during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the establishment of the Peace Corps, his support for civil rights, and his vision for space exploration, notably setting the goal for a moon landing. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas on November 22, 1963, shocking the world and leaving a lasting impact on American history. Number 9. Andrew Jackson was the 7th President of the United States. He served 2 terms from March 4, 1829 to March 4, 1837. Jackson was raised in poverty on the frontier after his father died before his birth, and he faced a challenging childhood marked by the Revolutionary War, during which he was orphaned by age 14. As a young man, Jackson became a lawyer and later joined the Tennessee militia, where he quickly gained a reputation for bravery and leadership. Andrew Jackson's military career was defined by his leadership during the War of 1812, where he famously won the Battle of New Orleans, solidifying his reputation as a national hero. Known as Old Hickory for his toughness, he also led successful campaigns against Native American tribes in the Southeast, which contributed to U.S. expansion, but had devastating impacts on indigenous communities. He became president on March 4, 1829. Jackson is known for expanding the powers of the presidency, dismantling the Second Bank of the United States, enforcing the Indian Removal Act, and championing the common man in American politics. On January 30, 1835, Jackson survived the first recorded assassination attempt on a sitting U.S. president when Richard Lawrence's gun misfired twice at close range. Number 8. Woodrow Wilson was the 28th President of the United States. He served 2 terms from March 4, 1913 to March 4, 1921. Wilson grew up in a devout Presbyterian family in the South during the Civil War, which deeply influenced his worldview and sense of duty. As a young man, Wilson attended Davidson College, then Princeton University, and ultimately earned a PhD in political science from Johns Hopkins University, becoming a notable academic. Before becoming president, Wilson was a professor, the president of Princeton University, and served as the governor of New Jersey. He became president on March 4, 1913. Wilson is known for leading the country during World War I, establishing the League of Nations, and enacting progressive reforms such as the Federal Reserve Act and antitrust legislation. Woodrow Wilson married Ellen Axon in 1885, with whom he had 3 daughters. She passed away in 1914, and he later married Edith Bolling Galt in 1915, who became a strong influence, particularly after his 1919 stroke. Edith effectively managed many of Wilson's duties during his final years in office, becoming one of the most powerful First Ladies in U.S. history. Number 7. Dwight D Eisenhower was the 34th President of the United States. He served 2 terms, from January 20th, 1953 to January 20th, 1961. Eisenhower grew up in a modest household in Abilene, Kansas, with strong family values and a focus on discipline and hard work. In his youth, Eisenhower excelled in sports and showed early leadership qualities, eventually securing a spot at West Point Military Academy. Before becoming president, Eisenhower was a celebrated five-star general and supreme commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force during World War II, overseeing D-Day and European Allied operations. He served 2 terms, starting from January 20th, 1953. Eisenhower is known for launching the interstate highway system, establishing NASA, maintaining Cold War stability, and promoting civil rights by enforcing school desegregation in Little Rock. Dwight D Eisenhower married Mamie Dowd in 1916, and they had 2 sons. Dowd Dwight Eisenhower, who tragically died at age 3 from scarlet fever, and John Eisenhower, who followed in his father's footsteps with a military career and later became a historian and diplomat. Number 6. Harry S. Truman was the 33rd President of the United States. He served nearly 2 terms, from April 12, 1945, following FDR's death, to January 20, 1953. Truman grew up in a small farming community in Missouri, facing financial hardships, but developing a love for reading and history. As a young man, he worked various jobs, including as a bank clerk and a farmer, and briefly attended law school, though he did not complete his degree. During World War I, Harry S. Truman served as a captain in the U.S. Army. He commanded Battery D, a field artillery unit in the 129th Field Artillery Regiment, known for its challenging members and high-risk missions. Truman earned the respect of his men through his fairness, discipline, and courage, which helped shape his leadership style and prepared him for his future in public service. Before becoming president, Truman served as a county judge, U.S. Senator from Missouri, and as vice president under Franklin D. Roosevelt. He served nearly 2 terms, starting from April 12, 1945. Truman is known for making the decision to use atomic bombs in World War II, the Marshall Plan for European recovery, the establishment of NATO, and his desegregation of the U.S. Armed Forces. On November 1, 1950, 2 Puerto Rican nationalists attempted to assassinate Truman at Blair House, though Truman was unharmed. Truman married Bess Wallace in 1919, whom he had known since childhood. Together, they had 1 daughter, Margaret Truman. Truman was known for his deep devotion to his family, often writing heartfelt letters to Bess during his time in public office, and he remained a dedicated husband and father throughout his life. Number 5. Thomas Jefferson was the 3rd President of the United States. He served 2 terms, from March 4, 1801 to March 4, 1809. Jefferson grew up on a Virginia plantation in a wealthy family, receiving a strong classical education with a focus on languages, history, and philosophy. In his youth, Jefferson studied law at the College of William and Mary, developing a passion for learning, architecture, and politics. Thomas Jefferson is considered one of the most influential founding fathers of the United States due to his pivotal role in shaping the nation's identity and core principles. As the primary author of the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson eloquently expressed the ideals of liberty, equality, and the right to self-governance, which became foundational to American values. Before becoming president, Jefferson was a lawyer, a member of the Virginia House of Burgesses, and served as the first U.S. Secretary of State and Vice President under John Adams. He served 2 terms, starting from March 4, 1801. Jefferson is known for the Louisiana Purchase, which doubled the size of the U.S., and for the Lewis and Clark expedition, which expanded American exploration of the West. Number 4. Theodore Roosevelt was the 26th President of the United States. He served nearly 2 terms, from September 14, 1901, following the assassination of President McKinley, to March 4, 1909. Roosevelt grew up in a wealthy New York family, struggling with asthma and other health issues, but developing a passion for reading and natural science. As a young man, Roosevelt overcame his frail health through intense physical activity, attended Harvard University, and became known for his adventurous spirit and love of the outdoors. Before becoming president, Roosevelt was a New York State Assemblyman, a U.S. Civil Service Commissioner, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, the Governor of New York, and a Rough Rider in the Spanish-American War. He served nearly 2 terms, starting from September 14, 1901. Roosevelt is known for his progressive reforms, including trust-busting, the establishment of national parks, initiating the construction of the Panama Canal, and implementing the Square Deal to protect consumers and workers. In 1912, while campaigning for a 3rd term, Roosevelt was shot in an assassination attempt but survived and famously gave a speech with the bullet still lodged in his chest. Theodore Roosevelt married Alice Hathaway Lee in 1880, and they had 1 daughter, Alice Lee Roosevelt. Tragically, Alice passed away shortly after their daughter's birth. In 1886, Roosevelt married Edith Kermit Caro, his childhood friend, with whom he had 5 more children. Number 3. Franklin D. Roosevelt was the 32nd President of the United States. He served an unprecedented 4 terms from March 4, 1933, until his death on April 12, 1945. Roosevelt grew up in a wealthy and influential family in Hyde Park, New York, where he was privately tutored and developed a lifelong love for nature and the outdoors. In his youth, he attended Groton School, Harvard University, and briefly attended Columbia Law School, where he was known for his social charm and interest in public service. Before becoming president, Roosevelt served as a New York State Senator, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, and Governor of New York. He served an unprecedented 4 terms starting from March 4, 1933. Roosevelt is known for his New Deal programs that helped lift the U.S. out of the Great Depression, leading the nation through most of World War II and establishing Social Security. Roosevelt survived an assassination attempt in 1933 when Giuseppe Zangara fired shots that narrowly missed him and killed Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak. He married Eleanor Roosevelt in 1905, who was his 5th cousin once removed and became a highly influential First Lady and political figure. Together, they had 6 children, though one died in infancy. Number 2. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States. He served 1 full term and was re-elected for a 2nd term, serving from March 4, 1861 until his assassination on April 15, 1865. Lincoln grew up in a poor family in a log cabin in Kentucky and later Indiana, with limited formal education but a strong determination to educate himself. As a young man, Lincoln worked various jobs, including as a rail splitter, store clerk, and postmaster, while teaching himself law and eventually becoming a lawyer. Before becoming president, Lincoln served in the Illinois State Legislature, was a U.S. congressman, and built a reputation as a skilled lawyer and an outspoken critic of slavery. He served 1 full term and was re-elected for a 2nd term, serving from March 4, 1861. Lincoln is known for leading the country through the Civil War, preserving the Union, issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, and working toward the abolition of slavery with the 13th Amendment. Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth on April 14, 1865, while attending a play at Ford's Theatre in Washington, D.C., and he died the following morning. Abraham Lincoln married Mary Todd Lincoln in 1842, and together they had 4 sons. The Lincolns faced immense personal tragedy with the deaths of Edward and Willie. Number 1. George Washington was the first president of the United States. He served 2 terms, from April 30, 1789 to March 4, 1797. Washington grew up in colonial Virginia in a moderately prosperous family and lost his father at age 11, which limited his formal education. As a young man, he developed skills as a surveyor, explored the frontier, and gained early leadership experience in the Virginia militia. Before becoming president, Washington served as the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army during the American Revolutionary War, leading the colonies to victory over Britain. He served 2 terms, beginning from April 30, 1789. Washington is known for setting many precedents for the presidency, maintaining neutrality in foreign conflicts, and establishing a strong federal government, as well as peacefully stepping down after 2 terms. George Washington married Martha Custis, a wealthy widow, on January 6, 1759. While they had no children together, Washington became the stepfather to Martha's 2 children from her previous marriage. If you like this video, please comment, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Let us know your top 10 in the comments, and stay tuned for more such content.